say travel with your whole body. By the way, you did not know that symbol. Got that.
We'll get there. We're not going to look at it.
Or travel with gesturally, this is what I would do. This says travel, the most basic statement, most irreducible statement. This adds another layer.
What do you call that? Any path?
This is travel, this is traveling,
Travel.
this is traveling on an unspecified path.
So the
Not any path.
Or any path.
Oh, okay.
so the
That's
first
good.
one is intentional.
The first one says, is used for when, if I say to you, I want you to travel over there. Now, of course, yes, you're going to make pathway. Yes, you're going to travel there with walking or some other thing. Yes, there are all sorts of things that color it. But what I am trying to convey to you, all it's salient about it is go somewhere. No, not even that, because that's destination.
Just
relocate. Relocate.
But why?
So, Charlotte, you're saying that this one implies to you that there's a destination.
No.
No.
This one
Just that the pathway becomes
that there is that in
Where you
addition,
travel.
there are two ideas here.
Where do you travel?
Travel, and there's a design, there's a pathway to your design that I want you to consider. Yes, there will be a pathway here. You cannot travel without making it, but that's not what's relevant.
So
And if
Charlotte,
I only have this, I keep thinking, you know, it's I have no way, and another reason that I want to do this is when I came out of this with my students, with my little kids, what I do is I say, we're going to have a lesson on the idea of traveling and moving in place. It's the opposite. It's like the family of traveling as opposed to moving in place. It's not about making a design and not making a design, because you cannot not make a design.
So what you're basically saying, sorry, that you want to put A, B, or something underneath them.
I'm going to let Ilene, she's redraw, because I'm not.
So A is going, and B is path. And you want to do
Going
still,
on a
right,
path.
Yes,
Right,
because
it's
there's
a
two
travel,
ideas.
yeah,
Yes. But if you make the path first, you're going. And if you
Yeah.
can't make a path unless you go.
Right, right.
Right,
So I mean, just to give them a handle, a simple
Right.
handle.
Right.
The going, the path.
Right.
No,
Ray
the
was next.
generic thing about traveling with no destination is not quite true, because it is limited. You can't come back to where you started from, which is a destination.
But the point is not what you can do or can't do. And that's one of the differences in my mind between motif notation and the goal of ladder notation. It's designing a symbol that it's not saying what you do or don't do, it's what you want to state is important. Now, it's true that you may have to do that and have a destination, but that's not the point. The point is, what do I want to convey? What do I want to think? What do I want to focus on? What is it I don't want to focus on? I don't want to. You might have a notation score that it's what is salient and important, not these other things.
Okay.
Janis and
I
then
think
Martha.
for me, when Charlotte and I discussed this, I like the idea of having this, what I think of as almost an intermediary goings pathway that meant the idea of moving out into space, because the pre-A, or maybe D, is the locomotion. I said, because my first question was, why? Well, doesn't the idea of a weight shift? I mean, aren't you talking about locomoting if you're going somewhere? Where does that relate to the idea of traveling? And for me, when you're thinking about your weight shift of moving away from your place, that's another concept. And for me, this traveling pathway is the bridge between the locomotion symbol and the pathway symbol.
Right. Well, or
So anyway.
to me, it's also be a bridge. Like I said to my mother, who doesn't know, I said, "Ma, make your arm travel." And she said, "Okay." Now make your head travel. She said, "Okay." Now make your whole body travel from here to there. So she got up and walked over there. See, this it's even broader. It's like
But then it
traveling.
starts get to, that for me, that doesn't work so well for me because it starts going back to any movement.
Yes.
Yeah,
But,
okay.
but for me, it does really
Okay.
work, it does really work for me to differentiate between weight shifting as a kind of more single, 2, 3, you know, you do a weight shift, it can be from the floor
How do
up,
you
it
show
can
a
be
weight
around.
shift?
With the weight,
You mean
like the
transference.
support, like a weight
Yeah,
transference.
You mean transference.
Right, a transference or a
The weight
support
shifting
chain.
could just be this,
Yeah.
shifting the.
Right, right.
You mean transference.
A transferring, what?
Weight
Yeah, a step,
transfer.
a transference, a support change, but into locomotion. And for me, that going bridges between just transport, locomotion, the concept of locomotion versus pathway.
So it was Martha and then Tina.
I feel strongly about that too, Charlotte. I basically like this distinction of, well, we've explained that, but I'm having a harder time with the gestural piece because of the developmental implications. I mean, locomotion is really different than an action of a limb.
Yes.
But it's, all right, but they are different, and that's why, they are different, because you, and would, the question is there ever a time, then I'm looking at something, and I'm gonna do this and maybe not, because it drives her crazy, but I'll do it in a moment, okay? You know, and I see this, and then I see a person going across the stage, and what I wanna say to you, you know, it's not just staying
It's like a
in place.
gestural action that has a pathway of some
It's
kind.
not, no, what I want to say is, it's not just that my whole body stays, it's not just that my whole body stays in space as it goes there. It's not just that my arm stays in one spot,
And
it
it's
goes here.
moving through space.
What I want to say is it's going to places, and that's why I have the big generic thing that doesn't say it's my body traveling
Right.
and making, that's what that's
Gotcha.
for.
So it's something about the limb traveling through space or moving through space.
Not
that
the
you wanna
limb,
tell.
well,
I mean,
anything.
We already have, now we're talking about the difference between these two.
Right.
So that's,
What I'm
It's
saying
usually
is
a
that
list.
A is the most generic. Now,
Right, and
D says that the body as a whole, in other words, that has
Keep
the
going.
same meaning as what a path sign would mean in lava notation, that the body as a whole, in the support comment, what Jan is talking about, that the
Right.
body as a whole
so
travels
which is the one
somewhere.
that was just the arm or just the leg?
And a gestural traveling is E. See that
Oh,
symbol,
another symbol.
E below it, that means any body part. Below it, the pre-sign.
Right.
That's a sign for any body
Right, so
part.
that's what I was talking about. That one
Anybody
seems problematic to me to put it, give it the
It
word
was
travel.
Tina and then Ann.
What word would you use?
Moves through space to me, and maybe that is the same as travel, but it's still different than locomotion. You know.
Gestural travel?
But that's
I
what I'm
just have a
saying,
hard
is that
time
for me,
With the word travel.
with the word
support
travel.
sign
So I
takes care
also
of
am
the
putting up a thing that
locomotion.
says word, going, traveling.
Great.
Good.
All right, so it was Tina and then Ann and then Sandra.
What do I want to say? Oh, Janis, I wanted to ask you when you said shift of weight or transference of weight, can you demonstrate what you mean by that?
And maybe draw the.
change the support.
So like a step, a step,
Yeah,
so full, like a full step where you.
it could be partial, it could be,
But
it
if
could
we
be,
were talking about it in relation to travel.
right, well, if you're saying, okay, now, how if you shift to your right or back to your left, or, you know, if you're just standing and shifting weight, or you're taking a couple steps, to me, that's not traveling through space. So you could be doing all kinds of stuff, shifting your weight, you could do partial ones, you know,
Oh, I
sit
see
down,
what you're
and that's
saying.
about doing, I don't know how you guys are writing it, but, you know, we used to do that, but that kind of thing. That's about this, and for me, that's the idea of locomotion, or weight shift, or change of support, or depending on how you want to go about it, but it's that kind of play. But when you want to take that and take it, travel, go with it, I mean, you gotta move through space, that's where I thought this was really nice. So that this is takes care of the shifting that makes you go, and this takes care of the pathway that you're on. But this one is this wonderful one in between that means get out of neither one of those, like
Don't
just
think about
go.
where you're going.
Don't
or
think
not
about where you're going or
Just
whether you're
go.
hopping or jumping or leaping or rolling or whatever you're doing, just
Go.
think about going.
And
So I loved it for that.
Okay.
The
for having
series
that.
of weight transference
Direct
that
to Sandra.
produces traveling.
Exactly. And traveling produces pathways.
Right.
And but that's why I like
Right.
having this thing in the middle, why I call it like
Right.
a bridge, because
Right.
it differentiates that concept of
I see.
going.
Ann was next.
Because B, we have gestural pathways. I don't see that a limb going, to me that is just the action stroke. An action is happening.
But an action stroke can stand for a limb
Rotation.
not
Like
traveling.
rotating.
It's traveling as opposed to
Flexing,
moving
extending.
in place.
So you wanna
And a
make
limb
this-
can move in place and a limb can travel. The action
So-
stroke
Yeah,
can
yeah,
stand.
because I use this, or this now, because we haven't, like,
Right.
so many. I use this when I don't want to specify a space harmony analysis. When I don't want to give it direction symbols. And I don't want to be specific about the design, using your design, using the
Right.
design
Yeah.
stuff.
But
You
my
know, so
question
I
is,
don't want
is
to, I don't
it-
want to have to do,
No.
you know, whatever. I don't have to do that, and I also don't want to have to do, you know, that.
So maybe a
I
term
just,
for this.
you know, I like the idea of being able to say it's making all different kinds of spatial designs or whatever.
So maybe a term for this,
with the-
instead of going or traveling, is moving through space?
Yeah, or
Yeah.
moving place.
But when you're talking, when you say, so we have to
It
say,
has to do moving through space.
moving
Through
through
space.
space, instead of using the word traveling, say, move a gesturing through space.
Well, your arm is moving through space, or your
And
body
could
is
you,
moving
and
through
could you
space.
say, or your body is, so could we call could we say that locomotion is the whole body moving through space? The arm moving through space is gesturing through space.
That feels good.
Or I can gesture through space on a path. I can do locomotion through space on a path.
My thought.
Ann wasn't
I'm
finished.
sorry, I brought it up.
That's the great thing about the computer.
Ann wasn't finished, so it's still Ann's turn, again with Sandra, then Ray, and then Jimmyle.
Oh, my Lord. I just wanted to bring in, we need the symbol on the board, if you will, please, Eileen. Any path with a hold sign in it to indicate that it's a gestural
Yes,
path.
exactly. Some of us don't use the bomb notation.
So-
limb
Yeah, that
sign,
was
but
my
they put
point,
them
yeah.
in a
We have
circle.
any path, and where does the hold sign go?
Right
Near
at
the
the
bottom
bottom.
of the straight line.
Near the base of it, all the way through.
Okay, so that would
Do you
mean,
break it, or does the line go through the?
It
the
goes
hold sign?
through.
It usually
goes through. That, does that mean something different from E?
No, we're not for me.
For me, it means the same thing. And if I do, let's make another example, an arm
F equals E
sign.
over here, right, F and say equals E.
All right, now for G, put an arm sign as a pre-sign, and then a sign for a path sign, okay?
That's
Now,
my
the question is
Put the whole sign in.
it redundant to put the whole sign?
And the
that would
answer
be
is yes, but
with the
people
whole.
wanted, like they want the ad lib on any sign. They want the reinforcement. You told me to do that before, so I think I should do it all the time.
But, and I find that happens because of
Charlotte,
way back
I
at the
lost your
beginning,
second
the
one.
problem
Locomotion
of
is the
fixed
body
length
through
symbols
space.
needing
Locomotion.
signs after it. And if you're,
Let me listen enough.
I feel that inherent in that is people wanting to make rules about fixed length symbols having to have a movement sign afterwards or not having to have a movement sign afterwards. So if you just have an arm sign in a motif, it could mean a really short little arm sign, and then that could mean a pathway. And so to put the hold sign on there would make it relate to the arm sign. So it goes back to the whole issue of how do you show timing with fixed length symbols.
But then
That's-
body parts are not considered fixed length symbols. They're not movement symbols.
Right,
Pre-signs.
exactly.
You're
They're
saying
pre-signs.
what part, and that belongs
Exactly.
to whatever follows.
So
So
Janice,
there's an automatic link, so you don't have to worry about that.
so Janice, were you just saying that,
But for some people that reinforces the idea that it's linked.
Well, they know something, they want to see it all the time.
But
That's a
and this
crutch.
also goes back to the question, again, what are the criteria that we're using for developing symbols? Is it because you can do it on Laban writer, and if you can't do it on Laban writer, you better not make that symbol? Is it because? I mean, I'm just saying, I'm just saying, I'm just saying, is it because people in my classes keep saying, oh, but that's so hard to do, and is it because, or maybe it is, I don't know, is it because in Laban notate, or in Knus, or what are the criteria? That's an amazing, is it because it's too hard for children to draw? So I've heard that a lot, So what are the criteria? And that if we could, that would help. I mean, I don't know if we could come to an agreement or not, but discussion about that might help me to know what is important.
Can we just backtrack for a minute here? I've got Sandra and Jimmyle, but I'm just backtracking because I missed this. Locomotion had body through space, that you had a definition for gesturing.
You can either gesture through space, or you can do you can't locomotor through space, right? You can do
What you're on
locomotor.
to is in
Your whole
place,
body.
or
As a-
travel.
No, we're
But
not
yes,
using
yes.
the word travel.
Okay, we're not using the word,
But I
but
wouldn't use the word
basically,
locomotive.
But you said
What you
something
did
wonderful,
in
and I couldn't get it
axial
down before I was.
movement. You're trying to do the axial movement, the locomotor movement, the same thing for gestures.
No, yeah, but the question right now is the terminology. Is gesturing through space feel right for people for each? It is.
Gesturing through space or
As
gesturing
a-
moving through space.
Well,
Either.
whatever. Now, the point is through space as opposed to staying in place, all right? And now the question is, what would D be called? Is that called locomotion through space? Is that called, what is that called? As opposed to
Traveling
E,
Whole body through space.
the whole body moving, well, the
I don't
whole
think
body
locomotion-
movement through space on a path.
Well, what, if you say gesture through space,
The opposite of gesturing.
whole body through space. Posturing through space.
I don't want to use that. Don't go there.
Whole body.
I don't want to
know
say
about locomotion, because locomotion's too close to the whole idea of weight shift.
I'll tell you why I'm after this, because when I'm writing my book, and I start writing these long sentences as a description for things that I'm using a lot, it's just like instead of modes of shape change, I say shape modes. And if you make this long sentence, and every time you
That's
come
why
to it,
traveling's such a nice word.
So gesturing through space, body through space.
no, it can't be body through space, this is
Whole
body.
Whole body, whole body. Center.
And see, that's why I came back to the word travel.
I think traveling is okay for that.
Yeah.
I would say,
No,
instead of
but it's,
locomotion,
but
say traveling.
But
Just
traveling
that
through
limbs don't
space,
travel.
they do though, that's
Not
what
by
I'm saying.
themselves. Well, no, that's what I was having a problem with.
Be-
The idea of a limb traveling. It's moving through space, but it's actually not displacing through space.
Well, when we talk about making a path,
But it's relative to one center, but not relative to the space. You're not displacing, you're moving,
this is this, like
you're still, your center.
You're
is
talking
staying
about the difference
in
between a
place.
tilt and a shift.
It's true.
Am I right?
It could be.
My whole body is shifting because the bottom and the top are both going at the same time, as opposed to the distal is moving and the
Core space.
proximal is not.
So how about this as
How about
this?
as a distinction? I feel like what you're talking about gets
Yeah.
into the concept of personal
One
space
whole
versus
total.
general space as a dynamic energy. And that when you're talking about moving your limb around, it could be in your own personal space, but when you're talking about traveling, it could be addressing the more general space. So it gives you a completely different attitude.
Well,
And we're talking about that, not
I don't
whether
want
it's
to.
the whole body or a part moving through
I
space.
would-
So
I would, in my mind, like to not imbue these symbols
with
with
dynamic energy.
attitudinal things. And although I think that's what meandering is, and I think that's a wonderful thing that I would love to also have.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, you're making distinctions in some cases based on your personal attitude as you do these, and
For
it
the
really
word.
comes out as a
the word as an energy that you're talking about that
No.
is also defined in other ways.
You have to close your eyes.
I
Just
do.
know that.
How about this? How about this? When we see this symbol or this symbol, whatever, we're talking about the whole body moving through space. If we see it with this as a free sign, or if we see this version of it with or without a free sign, it's a body part moving through space.
No.
We know there's
Because-
a distinction.
No, because in my mind, and this is an important issue, and Ann and I have had a lot of discussions about this, I think, and Ray and I as well, I feel that except for those symbols and those ideas for which, by definition, the body as a whole moves, all other ideas can be performed by the whole body, by a body part, and we want to be able to say that it's not relevant. I just want to be able to say turn. I don't want it to say the whole body is turning. And for my mind, the plain unmodified symbol stands for it's not, body portion is open to interpretation. If you want to modify and say what body portion is involved, the body as a whole or a body part, then you add a pre-sign. You need to be able, in my mind, to say either whole body or body part, except for air movement, falls, weight shifts, level change, which is a whole other thing, which by definition always involve the whole body. Does that
Well,
make sense?
I was trying to avoid using words here. I put the words back. So for locomotion, it's the whole body moving through space. For a traveling, in quotes, gesture, it's a body part moving through space.
No, because then what is the word you're going to use for the generic thing in which either the whole body or a body part is not relevant with what moving through space?
Moving through space.
So
The body
That's your
part.
A sign.
The body
Right.
But the A sign is
It's
just
a
traveling.
going or traveling is what
At
we
the
said.
part, so we're moving through, but traveling is not a good term for the
Going is
LMA
better.
people.
Yeah.
So moving through space,
Or going.
or as opposed to axial movement or staying in place, is the most generic.
The
And then
body
we redefine it with.
The body moving through space is in its own hemisphere. The body moving through space is in its own hemisphere.
It's in what?
The limb moving through space is in the body hemisphere, as opposed
Is
to
in the body what?
kinesphere,
Kinesphere,
as
whole
opposed,
body,
as
yes.
opposed to
That's what
traveling
you were saying.
locomotively with the arm moving through space. There's a difference, and that doesn't come.
Say it again, why is there a
The one that you have up there now means that the limb is moving in the body's kinesphere. So there's no locomotion in the feet.
Right,
Wait a minute,
yeah.
and
It's a gesture.
right, without any locomotion in the feet. Then you got to have the one that says you do that while there's locomotion in the feet.
But what if you're not?
The difference
then you
is
gotta
it's
have
not
the-
weight
then-
bearing.
then-
It's not weight
Then
bearing.
you got to have the one that designs, doesn't move through space, but makes the design as you move the feet. And then you've got to be able to have the feet moving as it makes. So you've got to be able to differentiate between the limb in its own kinesphere and the limb moving through space outside of its
The differentiation that I would make is the difference between what we mean by whole body movement as opposed to gesturing. And what a gesture is, by definition, is a non-weight bearing movement. It's not,
Right.
It was Ann's turn and then Jimmyle.
And then I have
Eileen, I wonder if you'd be good enough.
She deferred to Ann.
Okay, excuse me.
I wonder if you'd be good enough to put up on the board a little floor plan with an arrow on it.
And while Eileen's drawing that, shouldn't we say that locomotion is on a support,
Yeah, locomotion has more to do with weight shifting.
but on a support? You're not necessarily talking feet, it could be knees, it could be your head.
Exactly.
right, any kind of weight transfer.
Any weight transfer.
Well, you're not
And then
transferring your weight
Would
if
you
you're on your
put
head
in
bouncing,
a forward
You are.
symbol with an arrow in it?
but you're supporting.
But if you bounce, then you've displaced your center.
Okay. Do we want to label these whatever, JK or something? HI, or the arrow on floor plan means go from here to there. The arrow in the forward direction symbol is the way that we say the direction of the progression.
Motion.
And then the direction symbol with usually a level in it will tell you if it's forward, middle. So this is direction of the progression. The extremity of my arms doing a forward horizontal pass. So that in fact the J could also be written as the
I.
extremity
I.
doing, make another one, a pass sign for the arm, which is going forward, middle. A pass sign.
The shift, that's it says shift.
So wherever your arm is, it is going forward horizontal. It has to be the extremity we're talking.
So you're saying I and J are the same?
So they can be,
That's right.
So
you
you're saying
can
two
use
is-
either.
And when we make a,
So what I'm saying is the arrow has the significance of the going from wherever you are, you go.
in fact, the way
And
that
so
shape
that is where I
used.
think Charlotte's sign of A
Yeah.
has that sense.
Yes,
Because it
exactly.
uses
Of the
the
going.
arrow
Exactly.
of the going.
So it's the generic of these
Yes.
for me.
And the B, we have often talked about the path signs. And I think we could say that has more to do with the path, because it's maybe your aim, and to do a path you have to go, you have to travel.
So it's like
So
the
perhaps
H.
we could, I don't know if this
No,
helped.
well, it is in
Yeah,
a way
yeah,
like
it's
the
like the
H,
B is the
is
generic
H
of
because
H.
H makes a definition about where you're going. Just to throw other interesting stuff, but it's a whole,
Charlotte,
yeah,
it's Jimmy Lee's turn.
I'm sorry. You
Then
go.
you're next.
I'm not even
No,
gonna go
Ray's
there.
next, and
Let
then you're
Ray
after
go.
Ray. Sorry.
All I wanted to say was, Charlotte, was if I put a little circle right here,
Yes.
wouldn't it be the same as E?
Yes.
Except,
Now we
if
don't
you're
have
gonna
any.
leave, it would be, except the reason that I leave that out and don't even use the action with the thing is that because to make it consistent, to make consistency throughout, to say, to use pre-signs, if you look at a whole chart of everything, and then you start just using pre-signs, it makes it more consistent. Pre-sign for whole body, pre-sign for body part,
But wouldn't it
of
be,
any body part,
So
and then pre-sign for a specific body part. That's the only
So you're
reason.
saying you don't use any words.
I
Yeah.
don't, because,
yes, but wouldn't it be just fine to just have two ways of saying it?
sure.
Yeah.
And actually, I do say that.
Yeah.
I feel that, that's true. It's a preference.
Some
Yeah.
contexts you might use pre-signs, in other contexts you won't.
I have my own personal reasons for not using the symbol, but that's, I don't see there's anything wrong.
Yeah.
It doesn't interfere or hurt
And not
anything.
using which symbol?
I'm not using the whole sign on the
Yeah.
path,
Oh, I see.
or, but I don't think that it's not confusing, because if you see G, or if you see F, or if you see B, nobody's gonna get, no, if you see F, or if you see E, nobody is gonna get confused, I don't, or maybe you do, is there a difference between F and E? That's the question.
E?
No,
Because
No,
they are really
E. All right, between,
One has pathway.
yes,
we
you're
don't
right.
have,
Just going.
we don't have, we need one here. You're
Yeah,
talking
so
about-
these
path
are
sign,
different.
need a
This
path.
would be a gestural path, you're making
No,
a path.
Right.
And this would be just gestural.
No,
going.
but create another
Right.
one that has a,
Ad
Ad-lib at the top.
Second level here.
there you go, we moved to the second level. We moved to the second
We
level.
moved to the advanced.
We're in
level.
second level here.
Most of us.
Okay, right.
I have a very,
So, wait,
very
Ray was next, and after Ray was
Ray.
Charlotte.
No, I don't.